What's going on, YouTube? So as I promised, I'm right back with the Outcast and the Granite comparisons to these vehicles. Of course, we're speaking of the Valkyrie 4S lineup. So I'm going to do the truck, since the truck is what we're comparing here, trucks versus trucks. If anybody wants to compare like a Creighton, you got the same thing with the Truggy. Kind of looking at, which we'll cover that as well. But same thing with the Big Rock, which is a little longer wheelbase. But the vehicles themselves are all pretty much the same after that. So this will be a value comparison. Maybe we'll break out the caliper tool, talk about some of the size, thickness of shafts, and other stuff like that. But the biggest thing is here, guys, this is the cheapest truck of all these trucks here by far. When we're talking about $169 cheaper, and when we're talking about $40 cheaper than this one. And it's a 4S truck. This one's a 3S truck. This is a 4S truck. So there is some conversation to be had here, and that's all I'm going to do. We're going to talk about that. So let me go ahead and we'll start with maybe one. Do we want to do them all at the same time? Let me think about this. So I'm probably going to leave them just like this, take the tops off of them, and we're going to do a comparison with them sitting just like this. We'll look at some stuff here, and we'll see how it stacks up to these two top fan favorites here. So in my store, the Grants are very popular. Getting into 3 to 4S, the 10 scale lineup, these are the two popular trucks that I sell. Now that Redcat's moved past like the MT-10E, which was also one of my more popular trucks, but we don't have that anymore. So this looks like it might fill that void. So let's get to it. So the bodies, the Outcast 4S body, anybody has these are well made, feel really good, hold up well. All of them need to be Gorilla taped in my opinion. This one's got a little more flex here, but you can see it doesn't have the contour and edges and grooves that this one does. So this is a flatter side, so these are always a little more flimsy. But as far as the body itself, it does have a really good feel, and feels a lot like it when you're picking this one up. But all the edging and contouring they do on this Outcast just makes that body pretty stout. It makes it feel really good. Whereas the 3S lineup feels much more like the Valkyrie. So again, body-wise, I would say it compares more to a Valkyrie. But the Valkyrie has a couple extra things with the guards and some of the roof rack and stuff that you don't get on the 3S lineup. Alright, so let's go here. So obviously, this is a pain in my ass. I think that this truck should have one lead on it. Mostly, biggest thing I do is we cut this off and put an EC5 or whatever people use on these. It's got one battery tray here. Most people aren't going to, I guess you can stack two 2S's if you want. But for vehicles like this, the one battery tray option is just so much cleaner, nicer, and without all the extra. So first thing we'll talk about is electronics. I'm not going to go too much yet. We'll start with the electronics. I do not like the Arrma servos. Just to be fair, I'm not a big fan of these. Some of these are 23 tooth, most of them are 25, but the 23 tooth make it a pain in the ass for upgrading with their, saver style built into the horn down there. So I'm not a big fan of that as far as any of their electronics go. I don't care if it's 6S, 3S, or what. I think the high torque that Redcat's offering you here, paired at the medium, is far superior to either one of these servos wise. ESCs, Spectrum ESC is perfectly fine. I think it's rated 120 on this one, also 120, but this is an actual Hobby Wing ESC Max 10, the SC10 or SCT, sorry. And this is the 100 amp. So again, no issues whatsoever with ESCs as far as I'm concerned with these three vehicles, although Spectrum did have issues putting this one out. And the new one, by the way, this is a version 2, not the 2.5. This one's not the center diff. I do have that truck, but again, a little longer wheelbase. I'll be fair and honest with all that stuff, but I'm not going to break open a brand new truck. This was my demo on my floor, just rolled with this one. Electronics, the Spectrum motor on this truck is a bigger KV, so you're going to have more, a little bit more top end. And I'm not sure about the gearing ratio, how that relates, where obviously if this is lower KV, you could have a higher pinion and achieve the same kind of speeds that we're talking about here. But for 2400 KV, I mentioned in my other video, this is 1950, but I would put a 2600 if this was my truck. 2600 is a sweet spot on 4S. Hobby Wing makes a 2600 4268 motor, and I think that would be a great fit in this truck personally, and would match perfectly well with this ESC without doing anything but unplugging these. So definitely a little bit bigger motor here. Definitely, you know, a fun little truck. No harm, no foul there. This one here, again, I haven't driven it to see the gear ratio of it, but 1950 kV 4S, and then we're looking at the 3200 kV here on 3S. Now this is a 3660 style motor, so it's going to be a shorter motor, less torque. Obviously it's a smaller vehicle, doesn't need as much. Still a fast, little fun vehicle. Just won't have that like heavy throttle feel that you get out of a 4S or 6S vehicle. So again, we're throwing this guy in here mainly because it does come in at a higher price point than the Valkyrie does. We're really here to compare these two here, which is $169 value difference. So again, I'm adding this one here, guys, just so you can kind of get that visual. So we're going to start at the front for this point, just so we can work our way back. Tires, I like the tires better on these. You know, again, these are upgradable, but I'm definitely going to put bigger tires if I had one of these vehicles. So out the box, the tires definitely a plus. Between at least this one, not necessarily this one, because they are, as you can see, about the same height, same size. I like the 17mm option better, so I'm going to go with this one personally over the Granite. That's probably going to be the theme here, guys, for this one. So I'm not shitting on the Granite. Please don't take it that way. It's just it's not in the same ballpark as these two, yet it's more expensive, which is why it's at the table. Aluminum shocks plus, not threaded, so they're not adjustable, but they do give you the clamp tensioners. These are plastic. They are adjustable though, and these ones well clip, much thinner. You can see the body is big bore on this one. These are bigger bore, thinner bore. Body post clips, these constantly come off. I hate them on my 6S ones, whatever. But what I was talking about earlier in the video, like the flex. Now flex isn't always a bad thing, but like I was saying with this one, there's no flex. Like these are going to hold tight, they're going to stay still, and this tower is so much thicker than what this design is. Of course, this is solid as well as far as not moving because of the way it's designed, and this is the reinforced one that they did after, I think, version 1s, in the version 2s if I'm not mistaken. But the whole style with this being the front is fine. There's nothing really wrong with it. I just think these clips, they pop off, you can lose them. I've broken a bunch of body posts. Not a fan either way, but again, not faulting it. But this tower, if you look at, let's just look at where this connects to, because I didn't do that yesterday. It's a very thin piece of plastic here. There are upgrades that people make that put on this that make this aluminum plate here. It kind of sandwiches it and helps, gives it a little bit more of a reinforcement. This one just feels so much thicker because it's all of this on top of that, whereas this is just that thin piece here. And of course, we get to the smaller, tinier one. It's not even, again, a fair comparison. Much smaller, same kind of style design, just that this one goes so further back and adds so much more extra reinforcement behind the tower, which is also going to give more stability. Where some people shear this here off, you're not going to do that. I don't think you're shearing this piece off. These have, anybody that has these trucks has seen somebody that had this sheared off. I did on my Big Rock. This, I do not see it happening. So I like the tower design. I like the shock bodies, the aluminum. I don't care if shock bodies are plastic though. So you're saving a little bit of money. You're giving me $169 value difference. I can take plastic shocks, especially since they made them adjustable and big bore, and of course beefed up looking as they are down here with these arms. But getting to the arms, like the Outcast arms, especially the new version, nice and beefed up as well. Wide arms, so we'll talk about the width of these two trucks too. I'm going to try to line these up the best I can because the Outcast is definitely a little wider. Let's go get this here. Alright, so giving the best angle I can here. I've got them about as centered as I can make them. The Valkyrie is wider than the granite, and of course the big rock is wider by far. It's a good bit wider. So the Outcast 4S for the $169 more, you are getting a bigger footprint, wider truck, absolutely. I do love that. Also, though, it's a downside to a degree for a basher, because with these chassis, what I've seen is this piece right here can break off. I keep getting my hand out of there, because it's part of the chassis. So you have to rebuild your whole truck if that piece breaks. Same thing with this one. Don't get me wrong. Same thing with this one. All three of them. But with longer arms equals what? More leverage. So you have more leverage. It's going to cause, you come down on this wheel and hit this one hard. It's putting more pressure at that spot than a shorter wheelbase truck would be. So, I've had a customer, if anybody sees any of my bash videos, probably bash video number like 2 or 3 that we did. He came out, brought his Creighton 4S out, and before we could even get the camera on, he had already broke the chassis at that spot, just gently hitting the small ramp. So it happens. I'm not putting it on the truck, guys. That was a fluke to him. He's driven it since then, hasn't had a problem after we rebuilt it, whatever. The wider arms are not always that much of a benefit because of the leverage points on these trucks. Like I said, that's a spot I would not want to have to rebuild my truck after a couple runs or a couple bash instances over it breaking like that. So Outcast gets the advantage for having a wider wheelbase. Give it or take it if you like it or not. But it is a wider wheelbase. The bulkheads and things like that are all one here, top pieces that go to the bottom piece, and the diff is in between. So like all of this is one piece here. Comes up to here. Good design as far as, if you have to replace it, it's not too hard to do. Same thing with this one. This one's a much bigger bulkhead footprint in the front here. It goes over top to steering rack design, but also the same style, just beefier. So I'm going to like the beefiness of this one over that one. Same thing. This is much like the 3S or the 4S one. Again, top comes off. This is all one piece. So it's all very similar when we're talking about those. Drive shafts, 4S drive shafts. The Valkyrie is definitely more like a 3S drive shaft size, except for what I noticed. I think some of their U-joints look a little bit better personally. It's hard to see and getting in there. That's where the U-joint is there. I kind of like the U-joint here a little bit better personally. It's hard to really see it. It's got a big fat pin in there. Again, same thing right here. Again, I'm not a plastic shaft fan. I hope that Redcat at least has some third-party support, if not their own upgraded drive shafts, just for people that do want to get a little crazier, maybe put a 2600, maybe some people that do want to go to slap a 6S in here for whatever reason. We just want to make sure that we have the upgrades, because we know we do over here. And I've got shafts and upgrades for this truck for anybody that wants them, but I would like to see that on these. So drive shafts, beefier on the Outcast 4S, more like the 3S here with these drive shafts. Upper arms, like this style better, not going to lie. These links, I've been there, done that. They can break off here, they can break off here. It's a weak spot. They are adjustable, but sometimes, you don't need to adjust it. So if I replace this arm, I don't want to have to worry about if my camber's in or not on this with an adjustment. One solid piece to me is going to be better than a 3-piece section, as I've seen with troubles over the Kaiju and things with some of the upper arms and my Creightons and things. And in any car that has this kind of link, it can just be a weak spot at one spot or the other. Not a big fault. I'm not faulting it. These are beefy. This is a good style. I just personally like a solid arm all the way across like that. And this is so stubby and short. Not a huge big deal. The truck's not that heavy. Again, I don't fault that style. I just prefer myself to have that solid arm. So the knuckles themselves look to be pretty wide here. It's like they got the built-in extension into them. The material feels great as far as the plastic goes. I mean, but going off the machete, assuming it's the same factory, they're very similar. This is more of a traditional knuckle C-hub style. The C-hub on this, again, I have to break out the caliper tool. I mean, I don't think I need to yet, but we might start doing that actually. But this is not as thick as this C-hub. This C-hub is much thicker right here. So the C-hubs definitely look to be thicker on the Valkyrie, even though the shafts and everything else are smaller. They do seem to have beefed it up a little bit there, and the knuckles in there seem big and fat. This knuckle seems big and fat. These also have a bigger C-hub shielding going around on them. So again, well built on all of them, it looks like, across the board there. The arms I mentioned on that truck, of course the arms on this one, not as wide, but still beefed up and pretty thick looking on the bottom, whereas the smaller ones got the traditional gaps and things, which again, they make RPMs and stuff as upgrades. I just like the solid arm look better. I think it's going to hold up a little bit better. But again, this is a 3S truck. It doesn't have the same speed and power, or I should say power. It does have speed. It doesn't have the same torque and power as these ones do, which are definitely beefed up. They look like they can handle that or take that. The diffs are metal in the Outcast. They're metal in the Valkyrie. They're plastic in the Granite. So you got your bevels and your pinion that are plastic, metal, metal. All right, so working our way back here, steering links, beefed up steering links, has the adjustability for toe. People don't want to have it towed out or in. Same thing here. This is a fatter insert than what looks like this one is. This one's longer, but they're all beefed up. That's pretty thick there, but these ones definitely are a little thicker looking and bigger, of course, than these ones here. So, of course, these are the smallest. These are the second smallest, but of course bigger and longer. And then these actually are the shortest of the two, but fattest. So this one's actually probably the most beefed up one. Center drive shaft, bracketing it up here. I like this style better. I like it on a screw better. These ends break though. I've seen these ends break. So, you know, again, no big deal. That's interchangeable, no big deal there whatsoever, so I'm not going to fault that. This one being in here, like I said, if the same thing that's going to break this piece were to happen, you're probably going to strip these screws out here and pull them out, assuming. And if you do, that's fixable, so no big deal there either. You can put some JB weld down in there with a toothpick, let it set a little bit, thread your screw down in it, back it out, and then put it back in after it's cured, and you'll have a nice, you know, filled in kind of hole. So I've done that numerous times. Works like a charm. So let's see here. ESC, the receiver box is down there. Very similar. Receiver boxes underneath the ESCs. Pain in the ass when you got to get into the box, but it is what it is. So the shaft on this one is not there. Oh yeah, by the way. So the center shaft, there is no center shaft on this one. Plastic drive shaft, metal drive shaft, plastic drive shaft. So there's those three again. I've showed the exploded view on this one. It looks like it's really well built. This one's got at least the metal ends to it on the one side, and this one doesn't. So they have this fitting here that goes into the drive shaft. It's plastic. They make this in aluminum, but this one's coming out the box with aluminum. Motors we kind of covered already. There's the motors. Again, already talked about those guys. Battery straps areas. Limiting on the battery strap or battery size. This one looks like it's got a piece here that lets you put this up and I guess guard for a battery, different battery size. So if you needed a short battery, it would be adjustable. I'm assuming that's what this is. I'll be honest with you, I never noticed it. But regardless, that is what it is. Other than that, they are very similar when it gets to that point. The adjustable for a longer battery. No adjustments whatsoever here. Getting into the rear body posts. Super flexible. Can break off. Seen it. Happens. No big deal. Back tower again. Very thin. This is the thickness of the back tower, whereas, you know, that's what that is there plus that. So you've got so much more meat there to reinforce your front and rear ends on this truck, which is a nice touch. Again, aluminum shocks in the back. Wing, I can tell you for 100%, this wing is way more flexible and moving and feels like it's not going to break, where this feels like if it takes a hard enough hit on that wing, it's going to break off. I think this will just bend from what I did in the unboxing video. Let's take a spin these guys around here and look at the rears. Not a fan of this wheelie bar. Break. Boom. Could break right off there. It's held on by 4 screws. Don't really have an issue how it mounts, although I have had it break off up here on my Big Rock before. But breaking a wheel off has been a concern for me on that style. Not so much. Haven't seen too many issues with this one. They did a really good job on the Outcast, beefing them up. Some little tiny wheels there. But beefiness, this is a much bigger wheel. Good bearings. So it's like these wheels are almost the same. These are much bigger wheels and a much better mounting style and a holder style. So I'm not going to snap this wheel off like I would on this one. So I like the wheelie bar on this one. I think it's a better design. I like the wing better from what I felt on the machete style one, Valkyrie, than I did for this one. And I'm liking the rear towers. So in the rear, the only other thing really to talk about, which we already covered, the arms, which are, again, beefed up on these two and thinner on these with the openings. But the rear hubs would be the only other thing. So these rear hubs here, you can kind of see them. I mean, it's a pretty beefy looking hub. And there's, and these trucks get dirty sitting on my shelf. It's just a traditional looking upright. Again, these tires have more of an offset to them, so they kind of sit in there more. It's kind of hard to see it. I'm not going to fault one over the other on these two, but they're both thicker than what we got here on this style. And you got this long upper piece that comes off here. Now I can tell you that I've had a customer bring in his thing for a rear hub, and he broke his off at the top here. This one does seem shorter and stubbier, like it's got less leverage. Of course, you know, something shorter, something smaller is going to have less leverage. This one also is pretty tall, but it's a little bit beefier than the 3S one. So, again, I haven't seen any issues with those ones. I'm not going to call it out for it. So, bucket tray designs, they all have that style plastic bucket tray. So, kind of equal across the board there until we start seeing something different. This one's got one that goes all the way around, like a dirt tray, I guess. Could be catching dirt, but it also could be, with as tight as the body fits, could be keeping a lot of that out. This one does as well, but it flaps up. It's open up here. Stuff always gets in here. This just kind of clips on here. I just pulled it off. So it's, you know, it's okay. It doesn't cover the back as much. Doesn't come up as high in the back. Neither does this one. This was like a clip-on style here. Same thing, gaps all up in here. So I think it's just going to be cleaner probably after you run it with your body and stuff in the same setting for setting. I think this one's going to come out and be cleaner on the inside, which some people care about. They, you know, these pain in the ass to get in here and clean with all these corners and angles. So if the less dirt that gets in there, the better. All right, as I mentioned with the wheelbase links and things, oh, this one's upside down. Oh, these two. I got them turned wrong. Either way, ignore the turning wrong. A 4S Creighton is going to be slightly longer. The new version 2 or 0.5 of the center diff version of this, which this does have a center diff. This one does have a center diff now that I'm mentioning it. Mod 1 gearing. Mod 1 gearing on this one. And this one's 48 pitch on the brushless model. Or not 48 pitch, I'm sorry. Mod 8 pitch on the brushless model and 48 on the brushed one. But you'll get a longer wheelbase that will probably be a very similar wheelbase lengthwise on a Big Rock. So the Big Rock is a little bit longer like this, but I am digging, I think this chassis, it's, you have to be told, I guess. This is just a skid cover here and here, but this is all the way up, one solid piece, all the way to right here, and then the bumpers mount on. So this is a solid piece under here. It's just no skid that you have to worry about taking off. Like when we take this off, we got to get the skid off, and this all mounts and hinges to this. This is completely beefed up way more than the rear hinge bulkhead is on this one. So that's what's holding the hinge pins in the back. Much more thick piece there. This one's got more, just like the exact as the 3S, just a little larger. But the pans, completely solid, very smooth. Arrma's got their logos and things on here, which looks good too. So again, I got no complaints on either one of these on the bottom. I just like the smoothness of this one here and the way it feels. But you can really see the arm difference there, how much wider this truck is. Again, wider equals leverage, but not taking it away for it. It's $169 more truck, bigger tires and things like that, bigger motor. It's expected for that kind of price. But this might be a truck that you can get for far less. Throw some money at it, put some extra tires on it, you know, put a bigger motor in it, and still be under what this one will cost you, and have something, you know, maybe as good, if not better. You know, getting some extra electronics in it and things like that. Now you're faster than what even that one is. So it's yet to be seen how these handle. Of course, I'm not going to go run one just right yet, so I'm going to rely on some of the other people out there that are going to take them out, bash them, beat them up, and we'll see how they hold up. I got a customer that's in for one of these. He's actually was in when they came in and arrived at my store, so he kind of got just some personal insight about what we were talking about wise, and he kind of was waiting to come in and see it. So he's looking for a 10 scale truck, hasn't gotten any information on it whatsoever because I'm not allowed to. Just told him to come back and see me on the 24th, and he may take one. So we might be out in a bash session series with this truck, and we'll get a full in front of us view of exactly how this truck holds up. And I would love that if he takes this, because I want to see this truck in action and, you know, play around with it myself. But guys, I don't know what else to cover, man. This is just an overview, man. We're looking at $469, $300, $339 retail prices, guys. You know, this truck falls in a great category, great price. You almost can't beat it for what's on the market for $300 right now for a 4S truck. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this video, because after getting the unboxing done and things like that, I just started feeling this truck and seeing this truck and knowing what this truck was for more money, thinking then, hell, this has got to be closer to this one, which it is, but just nowhere near as wide. But guys, this is definitely, Redcat might have something with this. I'm very eager to see this truck in action and see what we got here. So if you guys are on the hook for any of these trucks or haven't bought one, you got 300, maybe you don't have enough for the 4S truck, but you don't want to end up with like a rival MT or something, like, which if I compared this to a rival MT, we're in the same ballpark as we are right here, where this is, it's going to blow it away. It's like these two aren't even like the same category to me. Personally, just because like everything's beefed up on this one, everything's bigger. These two are definitely in the higher category, but this one's still more expensive to this, and the rival I think is even a couple bucks more than what that one is. And I've seen the rival versus the Kaiju, and I think the Kaiju probably is a better truck in a lot of ways than this one, but I think there's things on this that would hold up better than the Kaiju has for me as well. But I beat the shit out of that Kaiju, and I love it and wouldn't get rid of it, so I'm not going to talk bad about my truck. But I appreciate you guys, man. Like I said, if you guys got any questions, let me know. I was going to break out the caliper tool and stuff, dude. We don't need, I mean, it's bigger. I mean, things like that. I don't need to get into too much more detail. So I think I've covered everything I kind of wanted to on these trucks, just to kind of show them side by side and talk about some of the key differences. But the biggest difference here, guys, is always going to be the price point. So whether durability holds up or not, I see this doing very well, but I just don't know now, so I can't give you that answer yet. But look forward to coming back and telling you guys. Hopefully we'll have it out bashing with us. But more to come later, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching.